The way African leaders have been borrowing money, seeking loan from China these days, has become very alarming. It is very disturbing for anybody that loves the continent, or even for African citizens, because very soon China is going to take over Africa and the citizens will suffer immensely. Most of these African leaders are very old men. Very soon they die, and again they leave the citizens to suffer for the loan that they've taken. My main concern is that they don't have any repayment plan. They don't have any plan whatsoever on how they will repay the money or the loan that they've taken from Chinese. Because take a case study of Sri Lanka. They have lost 70% of their port, their Hambantota port, to China with 99-year lease. So tell me, it's almost like 100 years. Which means these old men signing on the contract must have died. Probably their great grandchildren will end up paying off the debt, and everybody must have suffered for it. However, Tanzanian president has decided to change the narrative by rejecting the 10 billion US dollars Chinese loan which they were supposed to use to construct a port. His predecessor accepted it, signed on the contract, the loan, but he eventually checked it. He read through the contractual agreement, and he now said that it's only mad person that will sign that. So I think he's doing a good job though. Hi guys, you're watching Mchikky series. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for your support. I quite appreciate that. It's good to have you around. And if you're new to this channel, thank you for clicking on this video. Just sit back, make yourself comfortable as we get on with this gist. So before the incumbent president of Tanzania, John Magufuli, I hope I got the name very well, came to power, the Chinese investors had already signed the loan agreement with his predecessor, President Jakaya Kikwete. When he read through the terms and conditions for the loan agreement, he realized that it is way too much because in the first place, after constructing the port, Chinese will be granted 30 years guarantee and 99 years uninterrupted lease. Who does that, please? This simply means that by the time they finish managing the port for 99 years, the whole thing is gone. And the guarantee will expire after 30 years, which means as at the time they're managing it also, they're enjoying the guarantee. By then they're handing it back to Tanzanian people. Everything has gone to liabilities, so they'll start fixing it back. I don't know whether African government also look at the terms and conditions before signing this loan agreement with China, because to me it doesn't make sense really. So in response to this, the new Tanzanian president initiated a renegotiation process to decrease the lease period to 33 years from the initial 99 years, saying that it is only a mad person who can accept that kind of terms and conditions. So at the end of the day, the Chinese investors did not meet the deadline issued by the Magufuli government, as a result of which the agreement was cancelled. That's a good one. I hope all African leaders will find a way to cancel off their debts. And this makes me to wonder if these African puppet leaders really read the terms and conditions, or they just decided to sign it because they are greedy, they want to sell out their citizens, they want to grab anything that they can because they know that very soon they're going to their graves. This really breaks my heart to see Africa fall into the new neo-colonialism because a lot of African countries have bought to this loan, like currently Angola with an estimated debt amount of 25 billion US dollars, the high debt amongst all African countries, and has lost most of its oil into repayments to China, despite being the second highest oil producers in the continent. Next is Ethiopia with an estimated debt amount of 13 billion US dollars. The country has recently asked for a restructuring of the debt to an affordable repayment. Kenya has an estimated debt amount of 7.3 billion US dollars. The country has been taking loans to finance its infrastructure, but bigger part of the money has been lost to corruption. Republic of Congo with estimated debt amount of 7.3 billion US dollars, located in the Central Africa, all this money has been wasted in corruption by top officials. North Sudan, with an estimated debt amount of 6.4 billion US dollars, China has recently written off this debt. Zambia, with an estimated debt amount of 5.5 billion US dollars, China took over their power station, ZESCO, over unpaid debt. Cameroon, with an estimated debt amount of 5.5 billion US dollars, China recently agreed to cut down on this debt. Nigeria, with an estimated debt amount of $4.8 billion, Ghana, with an estimated debt amount of 3.5 billion US dollars, and Democratic Republic of Congo, with an estimated debt amount of 3.4 billion US dollars. DRC was the first African country to exchange their mineral with China for loan. Can you imagine the nonsense? Do they really need to do this? Can't they find an alternative way of running their country instead of going all out to exchange their resources with this loan of a thing? There was this Bishop Shehana that called African president out sometime in 2017. He said, African presidents are a laughing stock of entire universe and should be ashamed of their perpetual begging attitude. The overseer of the International Fellowship of Christian Churches said it was very shameful that African leaders had become international beggars. The clergyman said it was very shameful for African leaders of nations with lesser population burden to be constantly rushing to countries like China and India for help. He said it was dishonorable to see Africa being the object of pity for everyone. And again, he wondered if Africa were inferior to everyone, for them to be running around with begging bowls. So people that have been asking why is it that China is mistreating Africa or the whole world is against Africa. You see this? If you don't have economic power, you are nowhere. When you keep begging around, going from one country to the other, begging, you are classified as beggar and nobody wants to identify with beggar. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think it is nice for these guys to continue borrowing this money from China? I'm gonna sign off here. Stay healthy and safe. And remember to share this video with family and friends if you love it. And subscribe to my channel if you've not done already. And I'm gonna catch you in my next video. You might also want to watch the complimentary video I added.
We are privileged to be welcome in the home of the former African Union Ambassador to the U.S., Dr. Arikana Jombori Kor. We will be discussing development, security, and the state of the African women. Welcome to the conversation.
IMF, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed. Their success is based on our failure. That has to change. And guess who can make that change? We, the children of Africa, we, the Africans, are the ones who have to say, we know your game now. Enough is enough. We're not playing it anymore. And this is where the diaspora come in. There are more Ghanaian doctors in New York City than in the entire country of Ghana. There are more Nigerian doctors in LA than in the entire country of Nigeria. So let's be serious here. What Africa needs is capacity, capacity, capacity. And that capacity is in the diaspora. So it behooves us to bring the diaspora together. Let them understand what is really going on in our Africa. Diaspora are not going home. Diaspora are angry about Africa because they are not understanding the root cause of why Africa is where it is today. They think getting rid of a president will take care of the problem. Far from it. That president is just going to be replaced by another one who is going to equally suffer from the same difficult environment to work in. So let's look at an Africa that must be free to take care of herself, an Africa that's free from exploitation from outsiders. The multinationals who are stealing from Africa every day in broad daylight. I use an example of the DRC. If you ever fly very low over the DRC, you'll see tarmacs in the jungle. You'll see 747s flying into DRC, picking up minerals and flying right out. The same multinationals are responsible for arming young people and giving them MK-16s. Because why? Their satellites in the skies are telling them where that village is. There are lots of diamonds. So what do? Arm young people, drag them up, and send them to go chop off a few heads. The rest of the village runs away, so they come behind and do their illegal mining. We black people must understand what is really going on. Because what we are shown instead is, oh, look at those Africans killing each other. There are some serious games that have been played in Africa for far too long. And once we understand that, we can strategize as to how we can begin to bring the difference and bring the change that Africa needs. And that change can only come if the African diaspora are united. And the Wakanda villages, as I call them, it is our organized way of saying, starting with one African diaspora center of excellence, it will be a new city, a developmental hub that we can then take from there. Every sector is developed. Take healthcare. How many doctors do we need in this region to take care of this many people? We pick up education, same thing. We pick up engineering. We pick up electricity. How many megawatts of power do we have in the region? How many do we need? Be it solar, be it wind, be it hydro, be it geothermal, be it nuclear.
I want to bring you back to West Africa. President Alassane Ouattara made a declaration that the franc CFA will be replaced with the ECO. But many will argue that because there's still foreign reserves being placed into French economy, it's just the same currency, different name.
Absolutely. I agree with that. The question I had right from the get-go, first, is pegged to the euro. Secondly, it's still going to be printed in France. Third, they may try to say we are eliminating the colonial tax, but they're replacing it with the foreign exchange tax. These countries are very capable of negotiating their own deals. Their funds don't have to go through the French central bank. Even countries wanting to trade with African countries, they don't have to go through French central bank. So there are all those technicalities that are just stupid. What's needed is complete separation. France has got to get out of Africa, really, honestly. Enough is enough. To take $500 billion out of Africa. I mean, it is insanity of the highest order. In countries that are supposedly poor, and making those countries fund French education, French healthcare system, create jobs for French youth while we are struggling in our country. It's no longer sustainable. President Macron needs to wake up and smell the coffee. And the African youth are the ones he's going to have to deal with. The African youth are not taking it anymore. They want what belongs to them. Financial institutions, them too. If I had my way, all the African heads of states should stop paying back any loans that were given by IMF and World Bank. Those loans have been paid gazillion times over.
Many people